Waiting for the perfect moment feels smart, logical, even responsible. You tell yourself you're being careful, that you just need a little more time, a little more preparation, a little more confidence. But if you look closely, this habit is not protecting you. It is quietly holding you back. It creates an illusion of progress while nothing actually changes in your life. The idea of a perfect moment is comforting because it removes pressure. It gives you an excuse to delay action without feeling guilty. You say, I'll start when I have more money, or I'll begin when I feel ready, or I'll do it when everything is clear. But life does not work like that. Conditions are never perfect. There will always be uncertainty, risk, and things you don't fully understand. The people who move forward are not the ones who wait for clarity. They are the ones who act despite confusion. Every time you delay, you reinforce a dangerous pattern. You train your mind to avoid responsibility and stay in a safe zone. At first, it feels harmless. One day turns into a week turns into months, and suddenly years have passed with the same plan still sitting in your head. The cost of waiting is not just lost time, it's lost confidence. Because deep down, you know you're capable of more, but your actions don't match that belief. There is also something important to understand about confidence. Most people think confidence comes before action, but it's actually the opposite. Confidence is built through action. When you start, even if it's messy and imperfect, you begin to learn. You make mistakes, you adjust, you improve. Each small step builds experience, and experience builds belief in yourself. But if you never start, that confidence never has a chance to grow. Waiting also creates fear. The longer you think about something without doing it, the bigger it becomes in your mind. You start imagining all the things that could go wrong. You overanalyze every detail. What was once a simple idea turns into something that feels overwhelming. Action breaks the cycle. The moment you take the first step, things become more real, more manageable, and less intimidating. In today's world, speed matters. Opportunities don't stay open forever. While you are waiting, someone else is taking action. They are not necessarily smarter or more talented, but they are moving. They are learning from real experience while you are still planning in your head. Over time, this difference becomes huge. Small actions taken early create momentum, and momentum creates results. Starting does not mean everything has to be perfect. It means you begin where you are, with what you have. You accept that mistakes will happen and that progress will be slow at times. But you keep moving anyway, because movement creates opportunities, and opportunities create growth. You have to shift your mindset from, I'll start when I'm ready, to I'll become ready by starting. That one decision changes everything. It turns you from someone who waits into someone who acts. And once you build that habit of action, you stop depending on perfect conditions and start creating your own path forward. Creating more than you consume is one of the hardest shifts to make in today's world, because everything around you is designed to keep you consuming. From the moment you wake up, there is endless content waiting for your attention. Videos, posts, stories, news, entertainment. It feels normal to scroll, to watch, to keep taking in information. And sometimes you even convince yourself that you are learning, that you are improving. But if there is no action behind it, nothing in your life actually changes. Consumption is easy. It requires no risk, no effort, no responsibility. You can sit back, watch others succeed, listen to their stories, and feel inspired for a moment. But that feeling fades quickly, and then you go back to the same routine. The problem is not consuming content itself. The problem is when it becomes a replacement for action. When you spend more time watching than doing, you slowly become a spectator in your own life. Creation is different. Creation is uncomfortable. It forces you to think, to try, to make mistakes, and to face judgment. When you create something, whether it's a skill, a project, a business idea, or even a small piece of work, you are putting yourself out there. There is no hiding, and that's why many people avoid it. They choose the comfort of consuming over the challenge of creating. But the world does not reward consumers the same way it rewards creators. Value comes from what you produce, not just what you know. You can watch 1,000 videos about success, but if you never apply anything, your situation stays the same. On the other hand, someone with less knowledge but more action will move forward much faster, because they are building, testing, and learning in real time. There is also a hidden danger in constant consumption. It creates the illusion that you are making progress. You feel busy, you feel informed, you feel like you are doing something meaningful. But at the end of the day, there is nothing to show for it. No results, no growth, no change. This can be frustrating, and over time, it can lower your confidence because you start to question your own ability. Creating, even in small ways, changes this completely. When you take action, you begin to see results, even if they are small at first. You learn what works and what doesn't. You develop skills. You gain experience that no video or book can give you. And most importantly, you start building momentum. One small action leads to another, and over time, those actions add up. This does not mean you should stop learning. Learning is important, but it should be balanced with action. For every piece of information you take in, there should be something you apply. Turn ideas into execution. Turn knowledge into results. That's where real growth happens. You also need to become more intentional with what you consume. Not everything deserves your attention. Choose content that adds value, that teaches you something useful, that pushes you to act. And limit the content that only entertains without giving anything in return. Your time and attention are powerful, and where you invest them matters. At some point, you have to stop preparing and start producing. You have to move from watching others build their lives to building your own. Because in the end, your future will not be shaped by how much you consumed, but by how much you created and acted upon. Embracing discomfort daily is something most people avoid without even realizing it. You naturally move toward what feels easy, familiar, and safe. That's how the human mind works. It tries to protect you from stress, from failure, from anything that feels uncertain. But the problem is, everything that can actually change your life sits on the other side of that discomfort. When you choose comfort all the time, your world becomes smaller. You repeat the same actions, stay in the same routines, and avoid situations that challenge you. At first, it feels peaceful. There is no pressure, no risk, no fear. But over time, that comfort turns into limitation. You stop growing, you stop improving, and you start feeling stuck without fully understanding why. Discomfort is not your enemy. It is a signal that you are stepping into something new. When you feel nervous before trying something, when you feel resistance before starting a difficult task, when you feel pressure while learning a new skill, that is where growth is happening. The mistake most people make is they interpret that feeling as something to avoid instead of something to lean into. Every time you run away from discomfort, you weaken your ability to handle challenges. You train your mind to escape instead of endure. This makes even small difficulties feel overwhelming over time. On the other hand, when you face discomfort regularly, you build mental strength. What once felt hard starts to feel normal. Your tolerance increases and your confidence grows because you know you can handle more. Think about the areas in your life where you want improvement, whether it's financial growth, personal development, health, or skill building. None of these come from easy actions. They come from doing things that require effort and consistency. Waking up early when you feel tired, working when you don't feel motivated, learning when it feels frustrating. These are all forms of discomfort, but they are also the exact actions that create progress. The key is to stop waiting for things to feel comfortable. They won't, especially in the beginning. Instead, you change your relationship with discomfort. You start seeing it as part of the process, not something that is blocking you. You understand that every uncomfortable moment is shaping you into someone stronger and more capable. It also helps to take small steps. You don't have to completely change your life overnight. Start by doing one thing each day that challenges you. It could be something simple but meaningful. The goal is to build a habit of facing discomfort instead of avoiding it. Over time, these small actions build courage and discipline. There will be moments when you feel like stopping, when the discomfort feels too heavy or progress feels too slow. This is where most people go back to their comfort zone. But if you push through those moments, you create a shift. You prove to yourself that you are not controlled by your feelings, that you can continue even when it's hard. In the end, the difference between people who grow and people who stay the same is not talent or luck. It is their relationship with discomfort. One avoids it, the other uses it. And once you learn to face it daily, you unlock a level of strength and progress that most people never reach. Taking full responsibility for your life is one of the most difficult shifts to make because it removes every excuse you've been holding on to. It's easy to point at external factors and say, "This is why I'm stuck." You can blame your background, your financial situation, the people around you, or the lack of opportunities. And sometimes those challenges are real. They are not imaginary. But the moment you make them the reason for staying the same, you give away your power to change anything. Blame feels comfortable because it protects your ego. It allows you to avoid looking at your own decisions, your own habits, and your own actions. But it also keeps you trapped. Because if everything is someone else's fault, then nothing is in your control. And if nothing is in your control, then there is no reason to try harder, no reason to improve, no reason to take action. This mindset slowly builds a life where you feel stuck, frustrated, and helpless. Responsibility is different. It is not about blaming yourself for everything that has happened. It is about accepting that from this moment forward, your life is in your hands. No matter where you start, no matter what challenges you face, your decisions will shape your future. This mindset is not easy, but it is powerful because the moment you take responsibility, you stop waiting for things to change and you start making changes yourself. When you begin to own your actions, you start seeing things more clearly. Instead of saying, I don't have time, you start asking, how am I using my time? Instead of saying, I'm not good enough, you ask, what can I do to improve? This shift in thinking changes everything. It moves you from a position of weakness to a position of control. Taking responsibility also means being honest with yourself. It means looking at your habits without making excuses. If you are wasting time, you admit it. If you are avoiding work, you recognize it. If you are not putting in enough effort, you accept it. This honesty can feel uncomfortable, but it is necessary because you cannot fix what you refuse to see. It also requires consistency. One decision to take responsibility is not enough. You have to apply it every day, in your work, in your choices, in how you respond to challenges. When something goes wrong, instead of looking for someone to blame, you look for what you can learn. You ask yourself, what could I have done better? This habit builds growth because every mistake becomes a lesson instead of a setback. Another important part of responsibility is understanding that no one is coming to save you. This may sound harsh, but it is true. Waiting for someone else to fix your problems, to give you opportunities, or to change your situation will only waste your time. When you accept that it's all on you, you become more focused, more proactive, and more determined. Over time, this mindset builds confidence. Not the kind of confidence that comes from words, but the kind that comes from action. You start trusting yourself because you know you're in control of your direction. Even when things are difficult, you don't feel powerless. You know that your next decision matters. Responsibility is not about having all the answers. It's about being willing to figure things out. It's about taking ownership of your path, step by step, without excuses. And once you truly accept that, you stop seeing yourself as a victim of circumstances and start seeing yourself as the creator of your own life. Staying consistent and not quitting early is where most people fail. Not because they lack ability, but because they lack patience. In the beginning, everything feels exciting. You start something new with energy, with hope, with a vision of what it could become. But after a short time, that excitement fades. The results are slow, progress is not obvious, and doubts start to appear. This is the point where most people stop. The problem is not that they chose the wrong path. The problem is that they didn't stay on it long enough to see results. Success is rarely immediate. It takes time to build skills, to understand what works, and to see real progress. But when you expect quick results, every delay feels like failure. You start questioning yourself, your decisions, and your potential. And instead of pushing forward, you quit and move to something else. This creates a cycle. You start, you stop, you restart, and then you stop again. Each time, you lose momentum. Each time, you go back to the beginning. Over time, this pattern becomes frustrating, and it slowly damages your confidence. You begin to feel like nothing works for you, when in reality, you never gave anything enough time to work. Consistency is not about doing something perfectly every day, it's about showing up even when you don't feel like it. It's about continuing, even when the progress is small. There will be days when your effort feels weak, when your focus is not strong, when results are not visible. But those days still count, because consistency is built in those moments, not in the easy ones. You have to understand that results are often delayed. The work you do today may not show immediately, but it is building something underneath. Skills are developing, habits are forming, and your mindset is changing. It's like planting seeds. You don't see growth right away, but that doesn't mean nothing is happening. If you keep watering the process, growth will come. Quitting early destroys this process. It stops everything before it has a chance to develop, and when you start something new again, you go back to zero. This is why people stay stuck for years. Not because they don't try, but because they don't stay consistent with one direction. Another challenge is comparison. You look at others who are ahead and feel like you are behind. You see the results and forget the time and effort they put in. This creates pressure and impatience. You want the same results, but you don't want to go through the same process. This mindset leads to frustration and eventually quitting. To stay consistent, you need to focus on your own path. Stop measuring your progress against others and start measuring it against your past self. Are you improving even slightly? Are you moving forward even slowly? That's what matters. Progress is not always fast, but it is still progress. There will be moments when you feel like giving up, when nothing seems to be working. This is where discipline becomes important. You continue not because you feel motivated, but because you made a decision to keep going. This decision, repeated over time, creates results that most people never reach. In the end, The difference between success and failure is often just time and consistency. The ones who win are not always the most talented, but they are the ones who stayed when others left. They kept going when it was difficult, when it was boring, when it felt like nothing was happening. And that persistence is what eventually separates them from everyone else.